Now I have a special delight, which is the presentation of the Maria Leavey Tribute Award. You know, we've been inspired and challenged by remarkable leaders over the last couple days, the folks that are in front of the microphones and on top of the platforms. But now we want to pay tribute to a different kind of leadership, the people who lead without acclaim, the ones who have extraordinary effect but little visibility. They supply the ideas, the energy, the glue, the work that really makes things happen, but they don't grab the headlines or get the spotlights. Maria was one of those unsung heroes. She graduated Phi Beta Kappa from Trinity College, went to Penn State to pursue a degree in history, but she couldn't resist her thirst for politics, her concern for the direction of the country, her anger that progressives were not getting their act together, particularly in the area of communications, about which she knew enormous amounts. And so she came to Washington and threw herself into the fray. She worked out of her apartment using an outmoded computer. She helped liberal senators move up their ability to communicate through the radio and with their radio strategies. She pushed progressive groups like ours to get serious about communications. She nurtured brilliant young bloggers and researchers and writers, supplying them with introductions to people in high office and with a warm meal and a roof that didn't leak. This conference is a classic beneficiary of Maria and her genius. When I first met her, she came with one of her ideas. Why don't we invite all the progressive radio people to come in and interview the people here and broadcast the conference and give it a great deal more publicity and airing than it was getting. And like anybody running a large operation, Roger and I, we met with Maria, and well, it was going to cost some money and it was going to be difficult, and who would do it? And so Maria went out and raised the money and volunteered to put it together. And out of that came Radio Row and Bloggers Boulevard and a huge quantum leap for the conference, the Take Back America conference. She did that not just for us, but for organizations across that she worked with and touched across the city and across the country. Sadly, Maria left us on December 31st, 2006. And we all still sort of feel that loss of energy and intensity and the way she challenged us and moved us. And a discussion took place among her friends trying to figure out how should we honor this extraordinary person. And we finally decided to do something that she surely would not approve of, which is to do a public award in her name and to give it each year to another unsung hero, someone who was doing extraordinary work without the acclaim that makes and helps build a progressive movement. We were delighted that we got her sister's approval to go forward with the award, and we're blessed to be graced with her sister's present. Ann Leavey, please come and give us a greeting for Ann Leavey. Last year was the first award. We invited bloggers and activists to nominate people, and then we put the nominations up. We invited people to vote on the winner. Last year it was presented to Ari Lipman. In the past year, Ari has moved to Columbus, Ohio, where he has founded Faith Vote Columbus, a coalition of 30 religious congregations and community organizations working to increase voter participation in low-income neighborhoods. In only a few months, he's already recruited over 500 volunteers. He plans to build the organization over the next years to increase that voter turnout and then to use the turnout to focus candidates to address the issues of urban poverty and of social justice. Ari, please stand up and take a turn. So the criteria for the Maria Leavey Award, we are looking for an unsung hero who reflects her great gifts, someone who is a convener, who brings people together, someone who is not just an advocate, but a persistent advocate who carries ideas and pushes them forward, a selfless organizer, one who doesn't look for the credit, but often gives it to others, and someone who is a generator of ideas, who invents things and makes things happen, who is a source of creativity that helps our movement grow. This year, once more, we asked for nominations. We received dozens of remarkable nominations. Thousands of you voted for this year's award winner, and I'm proud to announce that the winner is Jim Gilliam. And to present the award to him is someone who I'm sure you all know, Robert Greenwald, the founder of Brave New Films.
Thank you. Maria was incredibly helpful to us at Brave New Films in the way that Bob described, selfless, never asking for any credit, and always being incredibly angry when things were not going the way she wanted them to go. So in her honor, we've continued that tradition of Brave New Films of being incredibly angry as much as the time is possible. I'd like to show a little film that Jim's colleagues at Brave New Films have made when we found out he was getting this honor. So if we could roll the film now.
Well before he became an activist, Jim Gilliam was already a success story. By the age of 23, he had already survived cancer and had played an integral role in the development of search engine technology during the dot-com boom. But after the events of September 11th, Jim realized he had a new battle to fight. Combining his technological savvy with his commitment to progressive ideals, Jim would help redefine how progressives tell their story. As a producer of feature documentaries at Brave New Films, Jim helped create a distribution network that utilized the emerging Netroots community. The creation of Brave New Theaters would give other filmmakers the chance to use the same method to distribute their own films. Soon, Jim and Robert Greenwald would stake out new territory using their distribution model to create an online home for hard-hitting viral videos that can allow progressives to respond almost immediately to the events that affect America. But first, he would have to face the biggest challenge of his life. In 2007, Jim would have to undergo a double lung transplant. It would be a risky procedure, and recovery would be difficult. In a remarkable show of strength and determination, Jim was back to work just weeks after the transplant. With Jim back in the saddle, Brave New Films videos have achieved over 13 million views online. As a result, Brave New Films has been able to effect change in a variety of real, tangible ways and continues to find new ways to communicate the progressive message to more people every day. Jim Gilliam is a fighter, a leader, and an inspiration to everyone who knows him. Jim Gilliam is a superhero.
It's a little bit of a challenge and a contradiction to introduce someone who in fact does not want to be in the center of the spotlight. When we got word that Jim was nominated and that we knew the voting was going to be online, we got all excited. If there's one thing we know how to do, it's how to get people to respond online. And Jim said, no, 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 we can't do that. We can't go there. We can't organize around this campaign. He's been an extraordinary, important, critical presence at Brave New Films from day one. We've gone through amazing transformations and changes from the full-length films to the short pieces to our new plans. Every step of the way, he's pushed us, he's inspired us. He truly, truly does not know the meaning of the word, oh, I don't think it can be done. Whether it was when we first started together and he was a researcher, and then we went out with this movie called Outfox, and suddenly we realized there was no website. And Jim said, okay, I'll fix it. And then 3 days later, there was a website. I assume that's the way it worked all the time in my ignorance. And then he started talking about this coding stuff and backroom stuff, and constantly created the plan for Brave New Theaters to allow all filmmakers to use our software to have screenings, worked with some of the Move On folks and the house parties, and now, as they just said, we just passed 14 million views on the short videos, in no small part due to Jim's contribution. We went through 6 months when it was incredibly tough, as we saw him literally struggle to breathe. He would come to the office with oxygen, and he never once ever complained about it, and he kept up his workload almost the entire time, which was truly miraculous. He's a friend, he's a colleague, and he's made a tremendous, tremendous contribution to the progressive movement. So it's with joy and pleasure I give the award to Jim.
Thank you. Let me adjust this a little bit. Thanks. I first met Robert shortly after the occupation began in Iraq. Someone I met at a Move On event forwarded me an email from him looking for someone to do research for a few months. I sent him a link to my blog, and he called me within the hour. That was almost 5 years ago. At the time, I'd become quite cynical and apathetic about the world. I grew up as a frighteningly precocious Christian fundamentalist. I called talk radio, I went on mission trips, I listened to Rush Limbaugh. But eventually I became disillusioned. I spent a year at Jerry Falwell's Liberty University. I lost my mom to cancer, and I had to fight cancer myself twice. To survive, I was forced to rely on others, my doctors, my family, the scientific community. I even needed someone else's bone marrow, someone I'd never even met. Clearly, my fiercely independent, conservative worldview was just totally wrong. I owed every moment of my life to countless people I would never meet. Then the country flipped out over 9/11, and the dormant activist in me awoke. It was no longer a question of whether I could actually change anything, but whether or not I could live with myself if I didn't try. So I jumped at the chance to research Bush's lies for Robert's first documentary, Uncovered the War on Iraq. 4 crazy, intense months later, I was driving up to the very first screening we had at an indie theater in Santa Monica. And the line was like all the way down the street. And I was like, wow, this works. This is how one person can have an impact. So we added a second screening that night, and in a matter of weeks, with the power of the internet, hundreds of thousands of people heard from insiders at the CIA that Iraq had no weapons of mass destruction. You remember at the time, I mean, the media considered it treason to even suggest such a thing. So progressive activists organized thousands of screenings in communities all over the world to get the message out. And now the only people who don't know this story are the people still watching Fox News. Apathy was dead. This whole changing the world thing was like crack. I didn't care how much money I made, or if my car was cleaned, or even my own health. I was addicted. And the whole world runs on stories. We can change the stories. Carl Pope says it perfectly in This Brave Nation, our new 6-part documentary series with The Nation coming out in May. He says, just take what you love doing and do it with enough other people to make it the future. We all have a story to tell about how we became activists, how we became addicted to progress. Here's my challenge to you. Most of you know very talented people working for very large corporations, and they're miserable. Work them. Stop talking about how the country is screwed up for long enough to show them how much fun it can be to do something meaningful. They won't convert overnight. I worked one friend of mine for over 3 years, but it does work. She left her corporate marketing job last fall to become an environmental activist. So Brave New Films is here to help. Evangelism is hard, so we're going to show you the trailer for This Brave Nation in a minute. An all-star team at Brave New Foundation and the Nation put this together. Christopher Sprinkle, Erica Yancey, Bill DeWald, Peter Rothberg, and of course Robert and Katrina. My hope is that you will get a few of these DVDs, bring your talented friends over for dinner, tell them your story, and invite them to make the future with you.
In the 60s, it was kind of hardwired that things were going to get better. The idea that we were going to go backwards, that just wasn't on the radar screen.
Never doubt that a few committed individuals can change the world.
I wouldn't be alive today if I wasn't careful. To make social change, you have to go to places that are frightening.
In 1988, I was beaten up very severely by the police in San Francisco.
My grandmother used to love to tell stories about how they had the picket lines. My father, age 3 at the time, would scream "scab."
I believe the American people are going to make some absolutely wonderful changes within the next few years.
I think that it's been exciting to see the interest of the younger generation.
If you do it alone today, do it with 2 people tomorrow. Do it with 4 people the day after tomorrow. Do it with 8 people the next day. And then 16 and 32. Just take what you love doing and do it with enough other people to make it the future.
And the people